Thank you guys for joining us on another Ignite Fire Testimonies. We have Todd Clanton in the studio, and he's going to be sharing with us his story.
You know, growing up in my household, there was just a lot of chaos going on. There was a lot of partying going on. Both of my parents, you know, were pretty young. You know, my mom was 17, you know, when she had me. And so, you know, normalization in my household, you know, was just a lot of fighting, you know, a lot of just, you know, my parents not really, you know, getting along. There was a lot of people coming in and out of our house. And I became a product of my own environment, you know, at the age of 5 years old. You know, my mom, for whatever what reason, you know, she thought that, you know, it was okay, you know, to give me a sip of liquor. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of my journey. And I became an alcoholic, full-blown alcoholic as a child. My parents, they ended up getting a divorce. We found ourselves just living in different hotels, staying with different relatives. We were living off the government. My mom started going out there. She started slinging drugs. And then she became a stripper, working at a strip club. And so, you know, she tried to do what she could to provide. And I get it, you know, I understand now. But then I didn't get it. And so anyways, what ended up happening was, and so I ended up getting adopted by the Beverleys. You know, they were just a blessing in my life. They took me under their wing. They were a music family.
Did you do music as a hobby throughout all of your teen years?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So when I was in sixth grade. I ended up signing a record deal with an independent label called Crystal Star Records, Tim Morrison and Al Frederick. And that was the first deal that I ended up signing. It was like an artist development management deal. I signed with them. We ended up becoming a R&B music group. Everybody in the family sang. My dad Will, my mama Theta, my brother Will, my brother Robert, my brother Tony. They were all, you know, musicians. You know, they were all vocalists. And so I ended up getting put in with this family. Now, to remind you, you know, God gave me a gift, you know, that we discovered when I was 3. And so it was just amazing how the Lord knew who it was that he had to put me, you know, in the hands of. And so a lot of my musical capabilities and a lot of my just, you know, my growth and a lot of, you know, training of my ear, training of the voice to even strengthen my voice. But when I got with that family, you know, they pretty much just took me under their wing. You know, our dad Will, you know, may he rest in peace. We just lost him. They had a lot of patience. They had a lot of patience with me. They gave me tough love, and I respect them for that. At the time, you know, I was really rebellious, because at the end of the day, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. You know, you couldn't tell me anything. I'm going to do what I want to do, and that's just what it is.
Did they make you leave because of that, or did you end up staying there?
No, I stayed there for a while. Yeah, they never made me leave. I chose to leave.
How old were you when you had your first child?
I was 19. Yeah, I was 19. I was 19 years old. And so it was hard. It was really hard for me to really give them something that, you know, I didn't know how to give. You know, I didn't know how to love. And I found myself lost. When I lost my family. You know, that right there honestly was my rock bottom. What ended up happening was I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of, you know, touring. You know, I come from a musical background. I was still pursuing this music career. You know, I thought I was going to be the next big thing. And I put all my effort, all my energy, all my time and all my focus in, chasing this dream. Yeah, so I got this phone call from my kids' mom, and she told me, she was like, when you get back home, we're not going to be there. And she's told me this several times, and so I didn't believe her. I didn't believe her at all. But I did feel this urgency that I needed to go home. There was about a week left for the Summer Jam tour that we were doing. And I told my management at the time that was managing me, I was like, hey, I'm going to head home. And when I walked in the house, sure enough, the house was empty. And so at that moment, that's when reality really, really hit me. What she's always threatened me and always told me, she goes, there's going to be a day when we're not going to be here. And you're going to realize it. You're going to realize that you made a mistake. And I never paid any attention to it. Never even gave her the time of day to even consider and think about what she was saying. That morning, it was actually Sunday morning, my therapy was always music. And so I just did what I did, what I knew best. So I tried to start to write this song. And when I started to write this song, I just started to get frustrated. I was drinking. There was a brother of mine, and his name was Sly. And he's actually from San Bernardino, California. Well, Sly ended up disappearing for a while. And we thought that maybe he got locked up. Maybe something happened to him. We didn't know. I didn't know what happened to him. What ended up happening was he became a youth pastor. So God ended up getting a hold of him and rescued his heart. So he ended up getting saved. He ended up, becoming a youth pastor. A year leading up to this moment that I'm talking about right now, when I walked into the house, I was actually home for about probably a week. And I remember taking my daughter to school. Well, when I took my daughter to school, I dropped her off and I went to go get back in my car, but I couldn't pull out because somebody parked directly right behind me. I ended up dropping my daughter off at her classroom, and I remember walking out, and I got in my car and I was mad. I was sitting in my car, I was like, who in their right mind would think that it's okay to just block me in? And so I'm sitting there, right? and in the rearview mirror, sure enough, who do I see walking out? Big Sly. Man, I jumped out of the car so fast. I was so excited to see him. God just begins to use him as a vessel. And he just starts trying to speak life into me. And he just starts telling me, yo, T, we've been going about it the wrong way. Man, this is not the plans that God has for you. We've been using the gifting, to glorify the world, and it's supposed to be glorifying the Lord. And he just started, God just really started, to speak through him, to speak to me. But at the time, I wasn't trying to hear it at that time. It was just going through one ear and out the other. I wasn't trying to listen to all that. And I was actually trying to convince him, bro, you need to come back on the road with me. After that day, and for a whole year, Sly would invite me to church every weekend, every Sunday, right? He would send me scripture every day. There was times when I would be off the road for a few days, and he would pull up to my house, and I would shut all the blinds, and I could see him coming in from my driveway. I ignored him. For God was really, really trying to get my attention for that whole year. Here I am now, a year later. I leave the tour, I come home, I get the phone call from my kids' mom that she left. I show up to an empty house. I walk in the house, reality hits me. I'm depressed, I'm hurt. And so I run to music. I start to write this song. And I started to get writer's block. I couldn't write this song. I was trying to write a secular song. And so I started to get frustrated. And I remember for the first time ever in my life, I cried out to God in that moment. And my prayer was, Lord, if you are who they say you are, show me something. Take this alcohol from me. Change me. I hear all these things. I hear all these miracles. I've seen what you have done with Brother Sly. And he was the last one I thought could ever change. I was like, Lord, if you're real, show me something. And I remember for the first time ever in my life, I found peace. There was a peace that came over me that I never felt before in my life. That everything was gonna be okay. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what I was gonna do. But there was a peace that came over me that everything is gonna be all right. And so I remember texting Sly. I texted Sly and I said, hey, what time is your service? And I should have known because, he's been texting me for a whole year, constantly, nonstop. But man, he called me back immediately. He was super excited. He was like, man, I'll come and pick you up. And I was like, man, you don't gotta pick me up. I go, I have a car, I'll get there. And so I remember showing up to the service. And I sat all the way in the far back, and I was just sitting there with my arms crossed, just sitting like with my arms crossed. Man, I was still drunk, and I remember just sitting there. And the pastor, in the middle of his sermon, he stopped his sermon, and he pointed to me, and he was like, "Son," he's like, "come up here." And I ignored him. He called me to come up to the altar 3 different times, and I ignored him. And I will tell you this, I felt like something just lifted me off that chair. I started to walk down the aisle. Some other brothers that are on the ministry team, Brother Sly, the pastor, they all just boom, 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 started laying hands on me. And I got saved that day in the church. And I have not looked back since.
I want to thank you for watching this testimony of Todd. For more videos like this, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you'd like to give your life to Christ, it's as simple as calling upon the name of Jesus. If you've made that decision today, please let us know in the comments below.